Hi, I'm Sandy with Old Time Patterns, and this video is one in a series on making historical garments. And this particular video is part 2 of 2 parts on how to make an 18th century skirt, and it's going to cover the actual construction of the skirt. So let's get started. Okay, so I've learned a lesson for all of us recently. This is one of the panels that I cut out for my 18th century skirt, and this is a linen fabric. It's 100% linen, and this was supposed to be the front panel because you can just barely see the indent in the center here. This would have been the front center. But the problem is, when I look at this fabric closer, this line over here is almost straight, and it's supposed to curve up. And I do remember reading something in the J.P. Ryan patterns that said when you're working with linen or any other naturally woven fabric, that you should always cut your selvage and pick off the threads until you have a straight line all the way across. You don't do that with quilting cotton. I don't think you could do it with quilting cotton because it's so tightly woven, but this is a natural woven linen, and I should have done that with this. I did do the other panel. This is the back panel, and you can see the ends of the thread that I left, and I do have a straight line, one thread all the way across on this. So I'm going to do that to the other panel. This is the back panel that's done. So I'm going to do that to this front panel as well. And then so I'll have a straight line to work with, and then I'll recut these. Okay, so I've got my blue linen all shored up on the end, and I pinned the two edges together. So I know that they're, level at the same position. So I'm going to cut my skirt panel. And then I know this time I've got a straight line. And when I balanced it out, I lost probably about 5 inches on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and make a straight point on my pattern. It's right about there. And then I'm going to cut a straight line down here too. So this one probably isn't going to be perfect, but it's going to be close enough for what I'm doing here. And since I'm losing this length off the bottom of the skirt, I might not have enough length to hem it, so it's possible that I'll have to add a ruffle to this, and that's just fine. It probably would look a lot better with a ruffle since this is a little bit fancier of a dress. But I've got this one piece. This is the front skirt panel, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the back panel. Okay, I've got my skirt panels recut. As you can see, this one curves up in the center, and that's my back panel, and this one curves down in the center, and that's my front panel. So these would be the side seams over here, and I'm going to start pinning these together to sew them. Ouch. But remember that we need to leave a certain amount at the top to be able to get into the pocket. Excuse me. So I'm going to not pin over that section. I think probably 9 inches would be good enough. So I'm going to mark off 9 inches. So when I sew the side seam, I'm going to start here and continue on down to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pin both sides and run them through the sewing machine from here down on both sides. Okay, so I've sewed up the side seams, and now what I'm going to do is finish off the seams. I like to have nice finished seams so there's no raveling or anything tickling my legs or anything on the inside. So what I'm going to choose to do is a flat felled seam with an overcast stitch. So what I'm going to do is start folding these seams over. So I'm going to get both of these seams all pinned up, and then I'm going to be doing an overcast stitch up both sides. The next step is to start attaching the skirt onto the waistband. So the first step I'm going to do, I'm working on the back part first, and then I'll do the front part. But the first thing you're going to do is pin the sides, ouch, about a ½ inch in from the end of the waistband, each side. So got that one done. I'm going to go over and do this one. Just pin it half an inch in, because you're going to be doing a side seam on this waistband, so you have to leave room for that. Okay, and the next thing to do is to find your center. So I'm just going to pull this. You can kind of eyeball it. It usually works. I've never had a problem with it. So there's my center, and I'm going to pin that to the waistband. And then you just start doing that all the way along. Find your center of whatever section that you're working on, and go ahead and eyeball it and pin it. And just keep working down the line, each section that you have. Okay, and because I want mine to be pleated, when I get down to a certain size of a section here, I'm just going to go ahead and fold it over, and that's what makes my pleat, and each one of them is going to end up being exactly the same size because of the way this procedure is done. So I'm going to fold that one over. And then I'm just going to keep going, pinning my centers all the way along this waistband until it's all done. So I got my skirt all pinned to my waistband. So in order to do the pleats, you just you fold it over inside the pins, and it automatically creates a pleat on the other side. And I'll show you what the other side looks like. So those are the pleats that are going to come out when this is all finished. And once you get to the center, you have to fold them the opposite direction, so your pleats don't go the same way all the way around your skirt. You want it to go to the center of the back, and then the other ones come in from the other side. So you have to remember to change your direction, and it makes kind of like a little box pleat in the center of the back. So this is ready to run through the sewing machine. So then this side will be done, and then I'll work on the other side. Alrighty, so there you can see what the finished pleats look like. And the center seam's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and start pinning up the front section and get that one done. I've got the front section all pinned to the waistband, and I wanted to explain to you what I did. This one right here is in the center, and I wanted a little bit of a flat area in the front before it gets all poofy on the sides. So I measured off 4 inches on both sides of the center, and that's just flat, and then my pleating starts after that. So you can see these pleats are a lot tighter than the ones on the back side, because I had more fabric to work with, because I kept this center section flat. So I'm going to go ahead and put this through the sewing machine, and then I can show you what this part looks like. So this is what the pleating on the front looks like. They're littler pleats than in the back, and I've got this flat section in the front. So next we're going to finish off the waistband. I need to get some black twill tape for my ties that are going to come out the sides, and I'll go get that and start pinning this up so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, the next step is to sew the ends of the waistband. So I've got this one end pinned, but we need to insert the ties as well. So I've shoved the tie up in between the two layers of the waistband, and when I get this sewn and turn outside right, the tie will come out the side like it's supposed to. So I've got this one pinned, and I'm going to run it through the machine, and then I'm going to repeat this on the other three ends. All three ends should be done the same. I've sewn on all of my ties. They're coming out the end of the waistband just like they should. And I've already started pinning the waistband over onto the other side. So this will be the inside of the waistband. And after I get done pinning this, I'm going to do an overcast stitch to sew it onto the skirt. And then I'll do the same thing with the other side. I've got the waistband all done, and my ties came out the side just perfectly. So this is all stitched in on the inside. And I did try it on real quick, and it's just a little bit short on the bottom. So I've got some more fabric. I got some strips of fabric that I'm going to use for the ruffle on the bottom of the skirt, and this is a selvage edge, and I'm actually going to leave this alone, and this is going to be the bottom of the skirt. Hopefully it'll look okay just as it is. Probably once I get it washed, that'll be a little fluffier on the bottom. So that's going to be the actual bottom of the skirt, and I'm going to turn this side over, and this is going to be the top of the ruffle. So I'm just going to hem this up so that's nice and clean, and it's just like a flat felled seam and an overcast stitch is what I'm going to do on the top of this, and then I'll start applying it as a ruffle. And I also need to finish off this bottom hem of the existing skirt. Doesn't really matter what the length is right at the moment, because the ruffle is going to go on right over top of it. So I'm just going to do a flat felled seam, just flat felled seam and overcast on the bottom of this as well. So I'll get to work on that, and then we'll start working on the ruffle. Alright, I got the skirt all hemmed up on the bottom, just a rolled hem with an overcast stitch, real simple to do. My next step is going to be, I've got these two sections of fabric for the ruffles that's going to be on the bottom of the skirt, and I need to sew these together. I've already, straightened out the edges. They're not quite the same width, so I do need to make an adjustment for that. But I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'm going to do a rolled hem and an overcast stitch on the section where I sewed them together, and then I'm going to do a rolled hem and an overcast stitch on the top part up here, all the way across both sections. So that's my next step here. I've finished with the bottom hem. This was just a rolled hem with this was just a simple rolled hem with the back stitch. And then I've tried on the skirt to test for the length, because remember I lost a little bit in the length when I had to straighten out the fabric. So I tried it on with my bum pad, and it's actually about 8.5 inches off the ground. And I want it to be about ankle length when I'm done. and my ankle's about 3 inches off the ground. So this is going to be my ruffle material, and this has also been hemmed at the top. This is the top side, and I'm leaving the selvage on the bottom just to give it a little bit of texture. And this is 8 inches wide. So I'm going to draw a line on my skirt about 3 inches, no, about 2.5 inches from the bottom of the hem. And that's going to tell me where the top of the ruffle material needs to be. So that it'll add about another 5 inches in length, and that should get it down where I want it to be. So I'm using a white colored pencil because this is a dark fabric. And I'm just going to measure off the 2.5 inches all the way around and draw a line with the colored pencil. See, that shows up really good. You can see that. I can see it. But that's what I'm going to do here, is keep drawing these lines 2.5 inches up from the bottom. And then I'll connect them together with a ruler, and that'll give me a guide on where to place the top of the ruffle. All right, this white line here is about 2 inches from the bottom seam, the bottom edge of the skirt. And I've taken this line all the way around, and this is going to mark where the top of my ruffle is going to line up to, and that'll make it just long enough. The skirt and the ruffle together will be just long enough to get down to my ankles. And then I've sewed a bunch of these ruffle pieces together, just with a flat felled seam and a back stitch. And I've also back stitched the top hem of this ruffle so that it's nice and straight, and the bottom edge is the selvage edge, and I'm leaving that just as it is. And on this ruffle, I'm drawing a line about 1 inch from the top. Actually, it's the width of the yardstick that I'm using, and that's going to mark my sewing line. Where I'm going to stitch this onto the skirt. So that goes all the way across. I need to finish it here. I've already started putting some of my ruffles on. As you can see, this is about a 2-inch box pleat. So it's got 1 inch off to the right and 1 inch off to the left. And I've hand stitched it on the white stitching line. And I am using hand stitching for anything that's going to be sewn. I'm kind of anal about that. But you can do it however you want, of course. And so I'm about 2/3 of the way done. And I've got some more ruffle here to work with. So I'm going to keep working on that. All right. I got the ruffle sewn on the skirt all the way around. So that's what it looks like. Of course, this has to go through the washing machine to get rid of the white lines from the colored pencil, the white pencil. But I will get to that. And I'm going to put this on real quick so you can see what it looks like. Thanks so much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, and I would love to hear your comments, questions, and suggestions down below. Please also consider subscribing to my channel, and if you click on the bell next to the subscribe button, you'll be notified when new videos come out. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy sewing!